This week, the Working Tools podcast is on the road at the Conference of Grandmasters of North America, being held right here in Seattle, Washington. So our format's a little different. We're going to have a series of short interviews with the attendees. We hope you enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Seattle. We've managed to grab a brother from the District of Columbia. Sir, would you introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. Glad to be here. I'm Akram Elias, past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Washington, D.C. Glad to be here.
And we just heard you present in the other room here. What were you presenting about?
I was presenting on women Freemasonry. It's a very interesting topic, very close to my heart. And it is to explain what women Freemasonry is. We know about men Freemasonry. Not many people know about women Freemasonry, whether that exists. So gave a little bit of history about that. And then why it is so important for men Grand Lodges today in the United States to think proactively and provide what I call the ecosystem for women to organize themselves and create their own lodges and grand lodges so they can be free, enlightened, engaged citizens in this great experiment of ours that we call America.
So just to clarify, there's co-masonry, which is men and women together, and women's masonry. Are we talking sort of all three or all?
Well, all three exist. My interest, my focus has been on women Freemasonry because based on my own experience, starting with my own wife, who 2 years after I became a Freemason in Washington, D.C., said, "Sweetheart, you've changed. You've become a better person. You've changed. I'm interested in that." And that put her on a journey to explore women Freemasonry. She's not interested in being in a lodge with men. She's interested in being in a lodge with women so they learn how to assist one another, provide relief to one another, build that brotherly love between one another. There are some people who may be interested in the co-masonry. That's not my interest. Most of the women that I've encountered in my Masonic life are interested in having a space for women. And it is very important, I think, for women to be able to get the values that we cherish so much as men Freemasons, because they're ascending increasingly to positions of leadership in every sector, in every industry, every aspect of our life. I'd rather have a woman leader in no matter what field it is who shares the same values as me. And for most women, they need that space first for them. Some may feel good in a co-space. That's their choice. I'm not speaking for or against any of that, but I am really focused on providing women their space they need because that is necessary more than ever to advance Freemasonry in our country and at the same time have Freemasonry remain relevant to its most core mission, and that is to produce free builders. So we cannot have only men free builders in a society where half of the population are women. We need to have both men and women who are free, as I say, free, enlightened, engaged citizens.
How would you propose that Grand Lodges go about fostering this?
There are many ways that Grand Lodges can do that. The key thing for them to be ready is that they need to help be supportive. The effort may come out of women. Some women who are associated with Masons. I was speaking at a Grand Lodge less than 2 weeks ago, and the wife of a Grand Lodge officer, soon to become Grand Master, is very much interested in that. So it is to encourage them. We do have a women lodge in Washington, D.C. that was chartered by one of the English Grand Lodges. California has. We can go to them and ask them. The idea is, let's be encouraging instead of saying, no, this is not for women. We cannot say that because women Freemasonry has existed for more than 200 years in Europe. And I always tell the joke about what happens with the daughters of the American Revolution. When the sons created their organization, and they said, this is for us, and the women said, but what about us? We're the daughters. I said, no, this is for us. I said, okay, we're going to go and create our own. The Daughters of the American Revolution. Which one do you think is most widely known and most impactful around the country today and has that beautiful Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C., almost across from the White House, where one of the most important presidential inaugural balls take place every 4 years in our country? The Daughters of the American Revolution.
I was about to say, I didn't realize there was a Sons of the American Revolution.
Here we go. There we go. Here we go. So women are going to do it. Yeah, so what I'm saying, if we're smart, as men Grand Lodges, we become proactive. We facilitate because we'll be winning friends. Instead of having antagonism, we transform all this into wonderful, positive, creative energy. Because in the end, we need men and women to work together as citizens in this country. It's no longer a male-dominated society. It's over, okay? We're sharing. So, hey.
Is this the first time you've presented on this topic, or is this something you've been talking about for some time?
I've been invited to speak in a few places. I gave it at the Northeast Conference, gave it at the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania for their leadership training thing. I've given it in Washington, D.C., in a few places around it, but now it's gaining more. People are looking more at it. Of course, I was quite honored last year to have been selected by the United Grand Lodge of England to be their Prestonian lecturer for 2023. Now, my Prestonian lecture was about the 300th on the occasion, celebrating 300th anniversary of the 1723 constitutions, and how those constitutions enabled that ecosystem called the Lodge that helped produce two generations of men at the time who became the leaders of their respective communities, that nurtured that culture of self-governance. As George Washington said in 1790, we are engaged in the last great experiment to promote human happiness by a reasonable compact in civil society. So the founders focused on giving us what I call the system engineering machine. In other words, a system of government based on checks and balances, separation of powers, public-private partnerships. And nobody can hijack a machine that is resilient, adaptive, always able to transform itself and adapt to circumstances. The key thing are the people. The people. Are the people going to have that civic culture to use the machine, the system engineering machine, to govern themselves and constantly advance this experiment? It's an experiment in the making. There's nothing final about it. And every generation is supposed to take it one notch up. So based on that, I focus on what the Lodge has produced. Well, we are now in this great experiment at a point where women here's what's happening. So we cannot move to the next phase if they're excluded. So I included, as part of the challenges, we need to figure that out. So that gained more, interest, more focus, because it is one of the big challenges and opportunities.
So the two things I can think of, if you were to post on social media right now about Masonry, that would draw the most anger would be if you want your square and compass on your ring to point in or out, and women in Freemasonry. And so I'm guessing you've gotten some pushback in this.
Well, I have, but it doesn't matter to me. Pushback, I'm not interested in it. I will continue doing what it is, because whenever you speak about positive, constructive change, don't you think the Founding Fathers, when they were coming together to put anyone who studies really American history, the problem is that people don't really study history. But you got it, I urge people, go and study back what was happening with the Founding Fathers. There's a lot of pushback. There was a lot of people who say, it doesn't work. People cannot govern themselves. Are you kidding me? Demos kratos will not work. The Greeks tried it. The Romans tried it. Look what happened. It's not going to work. So the founder said, well, we're going to try a new great experiment. But we're not going to repeat what the ancient Greeks and Romans did. We're going to take the best of what they've done, and we're going to create something new opportunities. There's a lot of pushback, obviously. But look where we are. This great experiment has not only helped America advance for the first time in human history, almost 250 years. No country, no experiment in the history of human civilization has ever advanced the condition of humanity the way America has, with all of our problems, failures and successes, with wars, defeats and victories, doesn't matter. Overall, we've expanded freedom, democratic governance in a sustainable way in this world like no one has ever done before. And today, with women, we have that great opportunity to further do the expansion. Look at the condition of women around the world, and that will give you something. So, Freemasonry enabled men to really advance this condition. Women now are thirsty to take part of it. I'd rather have them share those same values so we can work hand in hand. It's simple. I don't understand why anyone should be worried about it. What is wrong with you? With anything? Give them the opportunity. We'll be friends. Otherwise, you're talking about conflict. When you exclude people, you're generating conflict. Why? What do we have to fear? We're sharing something great. They're going to appreciate it. They're going to support us even more. And we may have people around lodges worrying about getting more Freemasons. Hello. What do you want mothers who really feel strong about that? Say, hey, my son, go to the lodge. Daughter, go to the lodge.
In your message, you indicated that there was some recommended language that lodges could use when they begin to engage with their...
We got to move totally, completely away from the word recognition. Because the word recognition, in English, forget Masonry, the word English, I recognize your presence, I recognize who you are. In Masonry, recognition means that we can sit together in a tiled lodge room. Well, men who don't want women in their lodges, women who don't want men in their lodges, have a problem with recognition. This is why, forget recognition. The word is we acknowledge and we support. We encourage. So we acknowledge women Freemasonry the same way England has done. They've done it for over 100 years. We acknowledge. And in fact, when men Freemasonry is attacked by people who say, this is a men-only group, and blah, 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 societies, the women Freemasons come up out of England and said, what are you talking about? We have our own Masons. We're Masons, equally Masons. We like the way we are, and we work together, by the way, in our communities, and everybody shuts up then.
An example is California. They have done an amazing job of developing that acknowledgement and partnership in some cases, or many cases.
Yes, this is why the partnership, and that's why I mentioned in my thing, we can partner. They partner, in England, they partner in the using of their lodge halls. There are places where men's lodges don't have their own temples. They use the women's temples. And vice versa. The installation, they call it enthronement in England, of the Women's Grand Lodge, in which my wife is a member of, was done at Freemasons Hall, headquarters of the United Grand Lodge of England in London. Okay, and then, very importantly, projects in the community. You can do charity together, educational programs, civic education stuff, youth training, you name it. And they're recruiting. They don't call it recruited, they call it university scheme. It's like the Marine Corps, the Air Force, or IBM going to college campuses and saying, hey, join IBM. It's not a job, it's an adventure. Join the United States Navy. Join Freemasonry.
Yeah, we had the senior Grand
Both
Warden.
men and women right there.
Yeah, we had the senior Grand Warden from one of the ACLG, American Canadian Grand Lodge, Germany on, and he was talking about how when he was in university, he had went to a fair and there was all of these different organizations that had tables around, and it had started him thinking about Freemasonry. And I want to really butcher this story, but it's excellent. Go back and listen to that show where he became interested, researched it, was really developing it, and then went home to visit and was talking with his father about the idea of Freemasonry. There's this thing, he saw his dad, he had a book in his bag, and his dad saw the book, and she was asking him questions about it, and he said, I was going to go visit this lodge to their guest night, and his dad said, well, why don't you come and visit our guest night? He said, our guest night? I didn't know you were a Freemason. All this time, which is unfortunate, but the fine threads that bring people together.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. And again, an opportunity to develop that culture of the community and things that we talk about.
And America is changing, which is for the better. The human condition is improving. And when we say for the better, that doesn't mean there are no failures. By definition, an experiment Think of a lab experiment. You try. There's trial and error. But then you analyze. What was the error? How can we fix it? But you don't stop experimenting because we want to produce better, greater medicine, greater knowledge, greater whatever, find solutions. Well, America in governance, human governance is an experiment. No one has ever attempted anything like that. So the idea is that each and every generation advances the experiment its own way. There are failures, successes. What is the key thing? When there's failure, how do we make sure that the system of governance is not hijacked by dictators? Because what the founding fathers learned from history, why democracy, demos kratos, was not sustainable, is that the focus was always on what is the best form of government that is going to solve best the problems of the people. Well, guess what? You may find something that works for a couple of decades, God knows what. People are changing. There are challenges, there'll be failures because we're humans. We cannot always succeed. You gotta have failure. But what happened when people look to government as the solution to their problems and they don't assume their own responsibility for governance? Without responsibility, there's no true freedom. People need to understand that. This is at the heart of the ritual of Freemasonry. What a Mason learns is that you're coming of your own free will and accord. You're learning here how to be a free person. Here are the tools, how you can use 24-inch gauge, how to use time so you can be free and in control of yourself, how to use your own gavel, how do you do your own tracing board to move from a rough, okay, all these things, but you do it. And there is a community called the Lodge with brethren who are Jewish, Muslim, Christian, whatever it is, Democrats, Republicans, orientation this or that, I don't care. But you learn how to work in that ecosystem. So the balance between the individual freedom and the responsibility of working together and giving back and relief, etc. The culture of the Lodge is incredibly needed, necessary to create that civic culture. So here's what happened. When failure happened, come the dictators throughout history. So, give me the power. Put me in charge. I'll solve your problem. This government, they're stupid. They're idiots. Just give me the power and I'll fix it for you. By the way, the more power you give me, the greater my ability to solve your problems. Forget this constitution. Get rid of the Senate. Who cares? Welcome back to dictatorship. The founder said, we're not going to do that. So this is why they did not focus on solving any of their problems. The problems were many. People think about freedom and slavery. That was huge. But I'm telling you, the English, the Irish, the Scots did not like one another. Those were the populations of the colonies. I'm saying did not like to be nice. What about the Prussians? What about the Dutch? What about the Spaniards? What about, the French, etc., etc.? What about 13 official religions? People don't learn their history. Every one of those colonies had an official religion. People fled Europe seeking religious freedom in this country, but then they excluded everybody else. Everybody carved their own territory. So the founder said, what problems? We're not going to do that. We're going to design a system of government that when failure happens, people will be able to take their time to analyze the failure, learn, like in the lab, how to improve the experiment. During that lag, during that period, no dictatorship should be able to emerge. Therefore, separate powers vertically, horizontally, diagonally, check and balance power vertically, horizontally, diagonally, limit government power through partnerships with civil society, free enterprise, vertically, horizontally, diagonally. So it is that machine which is based on reasonable compact. That was the genius of the founders. And the Lodge created that civil society, where people learn to assume responsibility to preserve their freedom. So government is a partner, not a ruler. So you can sustain democracy when failures happen. This is the most fundamental mission of Freemasonry. It's just do that ritual, create that environment, and bring in and graduate as many. Now we need men and women. That's the difference.
It sounds like a terrific.
Well, I had when you offered up open to questions of the audience, I didn't feel comfortable in the council bringing this up, but I had a question. So if we have our regular Blue Lodges and we begin to acknowledge and partner with lodges that we don't recognize as Grand Lodges, but we acknowledge them. How does we were having this debate, I still don't completely understand the difference between irregular and clandestine completely, but how do we, if there was another men's lodge that consider themselves a Blue Lodge or its own independent Grand Lodge, should we then also partner with and acknowledge those, or because they could be part of the men's, we don't? What's the differentiation there?
Well, the difference is, if we're talking about men Freemasonry, that is the world, the ecosystem of Freemasonry for men. You have people who disagree with others, whatever they split, they create their own group, there's more fractions, whatever. That is definitely not helpful. You cannot prevent that from going on. I think every Grand Lodge need to figure out how do you deal with that. So some Grand Lodges are very strict and say you cannot interact at all in any way, shape, or form with those. But you don't give them any quarters, any room for anything. And every Grand Lodge does it this way. Many Grand Lodges just ignore them, forget whatever it is. Okay. The world of recognition enables those men Grand Lodges to communicate with one another and keep those at bay, because they're not recognized. That's when you add the word recognition. One of the fallacies, however, unfortunately, in our country historically, is that almost all of our Grand Lodges historically considered Prince Hall to be clandestine. How can you be clandestine if you were made a Mason by England, for God's sake, the mother Grand Lodge, for the lack of a better word, the old Grand Lodge, first Grand Lodge. So there was this concept, I think ignorance is part of it. People don't know, again, history. They did not come just like that, and no, they're not. They're not clandestine. But there are a lot of clandestine Freemasonry, and those I personally always say stay away from, because a lot of these clandestine ones are there for other things. They want to create an institution to promote power, influence. They sell degrees. So they have things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about, which is the lodge is a place where we're giving you tools and the ecosystem support to help you become a better person. And these tools have very practical applications. It always asks the question, how does this ritual, how does this tool, how does this aspect of the ceremony help me become? Always ask that question. How does it help me, in my life context, become a freer person and a builder, a free Mason? And if we inculcate that, so the clandestines have different agendas. It's better to stay away from them. But women, well, I think you've heard the passion for me, and it's because of America. Because we need every ounce of energy from every citizen in this country to really be engaged. What a wonderful way if we were to do it around a common set of values.
You mentioned in your presentation that something around the proceeds of the Prestonian lecture go to charity. Is there an opportunity for people to purchase this, or how would they find that, or find more about you?
Absolutely. The best way to do it is go to Amazon. It's on Amazon. Go to Amazon, you click my name, Akram Elias, or Prestonian 2023. It'll come up. And you can purchase it in hard copy or Kindle if you are more into electronic. And they send me, the money, and the money is sent to the charity. So I support the Masonic charity in England, support the Masonic charity of our Scottish Rite, for the Southern jurisdiction, and I support in Washington, D.C. It all goes to the Masonic charity. It's my way of giving back. I'm not interested in making any money on this. What I want is to have spread the knowledge. I really want Masons to fully understand the gold that Freemasonry really hides.
I can attest that you made that presentation at the Scottish Rite Research Luncheon at the last biennial on your constitutions, and wow, what a message. Thank you so much
it's my pleasure.
For your work and for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for being with you. Appreciate
you talking out there and then talking in here.
My pleasure. Thank you. All the best to you.